Hello and welcome to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, where we explore the history and people of Troy, New York, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, John Salka. We often talk about Troy history on the podcast in the past tense, a way of contextualizing figures who are dead and documented in textbooks and documentaries. Merriam-Webster defines history as, quote, a chronological record of significant events, such as those affecting a nation or institution, often including an explanation of their causes, unquote. Or more simply as, quote, events of the past, unquote. While I think it's important to look back, it's also necessary to reflect on the living history we're experiencing right now in real time. As many of our listeners know, June is widely recognized around the world as Pride Month, including right here in the Collar City. It's hard to believe, but Troy's first Pride Month was only in 2019, on the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. Then Troy Mayor Patrick Madden issued the first ever mayoral proclamation which formally recognized the annual celebration on behalf of the city's municipal government. I would know, because, well, I was there. Here's a clip of Mayor Madden speaking during the proclamation ceremony.
We stand here a half century later, having achieved much, thanks to the tireless efforts and personal sacrifice of so many people, some famous, some who might be in this room, and many who remain unknown. What we have learned from their courageous work is that despite our differences, despite our divisions, and the many challenging issues we grapple with, real change is possible. Minds open, hearts change, America shifts. People who love their country can change it.
Having a hand in making that day a reality was something I'll always be proud of. Troy taking that first step was important and moved the needle a little closer to a more welcoming and inclusive Collar City. Now, let's flash forward to 2025, when Troy's City Council held a symbolic vote on the annual resolution recognizing LGBTQ Pride Month. For many reasons, this year's vote had a heightened sense of importance for Troy's LGBTQ community and allies from across the Collar City and the broader capital region. First was the continued opposition to the resolution by local Troy councilmember Bill Keel, who represents the city's northernmost district, including Troy's North Central and Lansingburg neighborhoods. In 2024, the local Republican became the first Troy councilmember to vote against the annual Pride Month resolution. In 2025, following a preliminary vote in the Finance Committee, Keel said he, quote, wasn't on board with the whole agenda, unquote. More on that later. Second was the ongoing actions of the current administration in Washington impacting the LGBTQ community, including reversal of anti-discrimination policies that protect LGBTQ rights, the dismissal of transgender service members from America's military, plans to shut down the LGBTQ youth suicide hotline, and even an order by the Secretary of Defense to strip the name of the late Harvey Milk, Navy veteran and former San Francisco council member who was murdered by his colleague for being gay, from a U.S. naval vessel. The third was a decision by 3 of the capital region's LGBTQ organizations to pull their participation from all Pride events in Troy for 2025. In April, Collar City Pride, Troy's local LGBTQ nonprofit organization, along with the Pride Center of the capital region and In Our Own Voices, announced they would not be involved with Pride events held in Troy. The reason? A disastrous meeting between the organizations and Troy's Republican mayor, Carmela Mantello, who allegedly expressed skepticism toward the organization's concerns over her administration's response, or lack thereof, to targeted actions of the Trump administration that were creating a culture of fear among the LGBTQ community. Specific concerns were also raised about a social media post by Republican deputy mayor and member of the LGBTQ community, Seamus Donnelly, in which he expressed support for President Trump. Collar City Pride recently released a video message addressing the meeting and outlining their next steps for the organization's events and plans in the coming year. I've linked to that video and various news reports in the show notes. These 3 factors set the stage for the discussion and final vote on the resolution. Collar City Pride had been encouraging community members to show up and speak out in support of the legislation in hopes of getting Mr. Keel to change his mind. So, on the evening of June 5th, 2025, the City Council gavelled in to take up the evening's agenda, including Resolution Number 53, declaring support for LGBTQ Pride Month in Troy.
We'll go right into our regular meeting. I would ask that you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Keel?
Present.
Councilmember Brosnan?
Present.
Councilmember Spain McLaren? Present. Councilmember Vera?
Present.
Councilmember Soriento? Here. Councilmember Casey?
Present.
Council President Steele?
Present.
Everybody's present.
At this point in the evening, we have the public forum on any agenda item. So I would ask Sarah, can you bring me up the sign-up sheet, please? The what? The sign-up sheet.
Person after person came forward to the podium within the City Council chambers. There were those who emphasized the importance of representation, those who shared their personal experiences as a member of the LGBTQ community, and those who expressed the importance of local government making a statement of support for LGBTQ rights and against discrimination. Some expressed frustration. A few shared their anger. Others extended an offer for continued dialogue with Mr. Keel. Almost all approached the podium with a message not of condemnation, but of optimism that the divide could be overcome. They spoke with dignity, grace, and emotion. At this point, I'm going to turn the episode over to some of the speakers from that evening at City Hall. Their words are much more important than mine and deserve to be heard far beyond the four walls of Troy's City Hall. I'm presenting their remarks in their entirety, only removing long stretches of silence or if a speaker noted their home address.
First person who signed up is Roland Hoffman.
Hello, council members and council president. I'm a little nervous. I don't think I've ever done this ever.
Well, take your time and
then
we really are friendly
Fluffy.
here.
Good,
All right, so I know Aaron a little bit. I'm Roland Hoffman. My family and I moved here in 2021. My husband, with whom I've been with 30 years. I just wanted to talk about resolution supporting the community. Declaring support for the LGBTQ community, to which I belong, clearly. I just wanted to bring it up. One of the things that I noticed and thank you for all those who did support this resolution, but I know that you, Councilmember Keel, said no twice back in 2024 and now in 2025. And I wanted to talk about why, because I heard that the quote is that you didn't support the agenda. And I would love clarity on what my agenda is, because my agenda this morning, I'm a clinical social worker, was to help treat people with psychotherapy. My agenda was to take my daughter shopping for her birthday, her 20th birthday. My agenda was to look at my husband for a couple of hours throughout the day, have brunch. That's on the gay agenda. But that word harkens back, and you remember this era. And I know the Overton window has shifted to a place where you believe that it's okay to use that kind of rhetoric. It has not. You can't use agenda because it is synonymous, even today, just like it was during the moral majority, just like it was during Anita Bryant, with some kind of nefarious acts by us, synonymous with some kind of pedophilia or something like that. I don't appreciate that. There is, in my agenda, is to be a good community member, a good parent, a good friend, to come here and help you and support you. In fact, I invite you to come to Pride with us. It's for everybody. It's literally for everybody. But I had to find pride during the moral majority, during the Save Our Children campaign, when I had to fear for verbal and physical assault. And you know what? I am tired of hearing people like you speak and say such awful things. So what I'd like to know tonight, what is my agenda? Other than showing up and being proud and allowing my future brothers and sisters, the younger population, to be free so that they can walk down the street holding their partner's hand without verbal assault or physical assault. So I'm trying to understand, what's my agenda?
Roland, just so you understand, this is during the public
No talk
forum.
back?
It's not a conversation.
That's my first time.
But
So,
no, I
it's my
understand, and
first time. Sorry.
I just want to make it clear that you have every right to.
Well, I think I
speak your
made my
mind.
point clear. I think that was pretty clear.
Thank you.
I will not tolerate. You will see me more frequently in city hall meetings. I live here now. This is my home. I intend to be a community member. I live right downtown. You will see more of me and people like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person is John Kane.
Sorry, my phone and my tablet are dying, so I'm just going to read this off my laptop. I first of all want to say I respect that people have different positions on different issues and sometimes social issues. And to be quite honest, I would rather somebody earnestly said they were against something than lied to me and told me that they weren't. So I'm not going to direct this at any one person. But having said that, Harvey Milk was born in Woodmere, New York in 1930. A class clown with a penchant for the opera, Milk graduated from the University of Albany with a BA in mathematics in 1951 before enlisting in the United States Navy during the Korean conflict. Milk was assigned to the USS Kittiwake, a submarine rescue vessel, as a diving officer before transferring to the Naval Station in San Diego as an instructor. Milk received many commendations during his career in the Navy. There was wartime service and positive reviews. Did him little good when it was discovered that he engaged in homosexual activity. Milk was given the choice between a full court-martial or an other than honorable discharge and chose to accept the latter, foregoing military benefits and leaving the military with the same equivalent a deserter or war criminal might face. After drifting for some time between places like New York City and Dallas, Milk settled in San Francisco's Castro neighborhood, where many gay veterans forced out of the military and often estranged from their families chose to make their home and build a community. Milk opened a camera store in the Castro, and thanks to the contemporary counterculture movement and an accepting community, came to gradually see his sexual orientation less as a stain to be hidden and more of a mark of pride. There was a different sense of civic duty that compelled him to local politics. As the story goes, it was a teacher who came into his store to spend their own money to repair a projector for their classroom that pushed Milk to run for local office with the rather groundbreaking notion that government should spend taxpayer dollars in ways that best serve their constituents, not themselves. So in 1973, Milk ran for an at-large seat on San Francisco's Board of Supervisors, a race he narrowly lost. 4 years later, and after the introduction of geographic districts, which put Milk in District 5, encompassing the Castro district, Milk ran again and won, the beginning of an all too brief political career remembered mostly for its ending. Milk's time on the Board of Supervisors was remarkable for its elbow grease rather than its theatric. Milk boasted about 50 new stop signs installed in District 5 during his tenure, and along with attempts to preserve housing and pass a commuter tax, Milk mostly focused on the basic infrastructure like streetscaping and an ordinance finding dog owners who don't pick up after their pets. Potholes and dog shit don't make history, however, and it is often a single piece of legislation credited as both Milk's signature achievement, a civil rights bill preventing discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodation based on sexual orientation, considered landmark at the time, and certainly in light of the AIDS epidemic that would sweep San Francisco and the world just a few short years later, undoubtedly vital to a marginalized community. It was 11 months into his term when former Supervisor Dan White, the only no vote to Milk's anti-discrimination bill, who had resigned his position due to the low salary, $50,000 in 2025 dollars, that just as a reference for you guys, I thought that was interesting, and was rejected by Mayor Moscone when he asked for his job back, evaded City Hall's metal detectors by entering through a basement window, and murdered Moscone in his office, reloading his police-issued revolver with hollow point bullets before intercepting Milk in the hallway and pulling him into his office, shooting him 5 times at close range, including twice in his head. A reminder to our community that no matter the good we do, someone's always going to hate us. When Board of Supervisors President Dianne Feinstein, who had found Milk's body, advised the public of the double homicide, the reaction was immediate. A crowd estimated between 25,000 and 40,000 people immediately gathered for a candlelight vigil from the Castro to San Francisco City Hall. Milk was 48 years old at the time of his death. In the years since, Milk has come to be seen as something of an icon for the LGBTQ community and one of the most consequential LGBT politicians in American history. In 2009, President Barack Obama awarded him a posthumous Presidential Medal of Freedom. The U.S. Navy, at the urging of Congress, named a John Lewis-class underway replenishment oiler after Milk in 2016, launched in 2021. 2025 finds the world in a different place, and owing to protracted conflicts in Ukraine, Palestine, Yemen, and the Kashmir region, as well as Chinese military buildup near Taiwan, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and President Donald Trump have prioritized, during Pride Month, the renaming of the USNS Harvey Milk. It's not medals or ships or plazas named after Milk that makes me proud of him, but the fact that despite the fact that his country spat in his face as thanks for his years of service. Despite his failures and shortcomings as a person, Milk saw the best in his fellow man, showing up to his paying elected office every day, giving his best in return. Happy Pride.
Thank you, John. Megan Nolesko.
I guess I'll leave this here. Hi, council. My name is Megan. I use they and them pronouns. I'm the founder and board chair of Color City Pride. I want to start by thanking everyone who showed up to our flag raising on Monday. It was a really wonderful event. We had a great turnout, as well as the rest of the council who did vote yes on the Pride resolution. I happen to live in District 1. Last year, when I called to ask you about Mr. Keel, why you voted no, you told me your constituents shared with you that you should vote no. And this year, your response was that you voted no because you don't believe in the agenda. And, you know, I think it's pretty obvious, or maybe it isn't pretty obvious, how harmful that kind of rhetoric can be. You know, we're currently watching the transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary community be attacked by the federal government. And a lot of those attacks began with the 2023 and 2024 movement of removing gender affirming care for youth and removing trans athletes from sports. And a lot of that started with just words. And now we're looking at entire erasure of our community. Just in 2025 alone, just since January, trans people have been banned from serving in the military. They have removed the option to choose X as a gender marker on passports. So I'm a non-binary person, and my passport currently has an F because that's what I had to do in order to get my passport returned to me. Since January of 2025, the federal administration has restricted the ability to change any kind of gender marker on your passport, whether that's male to female, female to male. They've also removed LGBTQ resources from the White House website. They've cut funding for HIV research and treatment in developing countries, and they've cut funding for LGBTQ youth mental health in the form of the suicide hotline. You're probably asking yourself, well, none of that matters. That's federal, right? Folks have become so emboldened to look at us as queer people as less than, that something as simple as voting no on a very symbolic thing like the Pride resolution lets your folks know who listen to you, your constituents, that treating people like me as less than is okay, that that's acceptable, that that's what we deserve. And I'm just absolutely unwilling to accept that as your constituent, even if I'm the only queer person that lives in your district, which statistically just can't be true. But even if I am the only queer person, I think that my life, or what you call an agenda, is worth a symbolic yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Elise Schendorf.
Good evening. My name is Elise Schendorf, and I'm a resident of downtown Troy. This morning, after waking up, I took my dog for a walk, made breakfast, and checked my calendar. I reminded my fiance, who is a beautiful woman, that we were a few weeks out from our next cleanup, and we needed to get a start on sharing that information. You see, together we run Color City Cleanup, a grassroots group that has picked up thousands of pounds of litter from the streets of Troy in the 5 years that we've existed. Of the many people who have participated in our cleanups over the years, a significant portion of our regular members are part of the LGBTQ+ community. After that, I got ready, went to work, and responded to some emails, including an email coordinating a lecturer for a free, sober community event series put on by myself and my fellow board at Color City Pride. Our organization works towards building a more inclusive community with a focus on making gender-inclusive substance use treatment more available throughout Rensselaer County. The reason I'm sharing this today is because it's come to my attention that Councilman Bill Keel may have some interest in my agenda and the agenda of LGBTQ+ people in Troy. To be clear, Councilman, my gay agenda is to improve the city that I live in, and I would hope that you would agree that an agenda that increases accessibility to substance use treatment and keeps our city streets clean is something that we can all support. Councilman Keel, I implore you to look around and realize that regardless of what your personal opinions are, queer and trans people make our city a better place to live for everyone, and that your job is to represent the interests of the diverse group of people who live in your district. And to the residents of District 1, I urge you to remember that you have more in common with your neighbors than differences, and to especially remember that when you're being represented by someone who uses their voice to cast performative votes instead of using their voice to promote progress in our city. And while I have the floor, I think it's interesting that the mayor is suddenly so interested in renters' rights, but refuses to do anything like pass baseline renters' protections, such as good cause eviction in Troy. Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Joseph Squelia, and I am a resident also of downtown Troy. I'm here tonight to discuss the importance of pride and how pride can save lives. The opposite of pride is shame, and shame is devastating to queer youth. Growing up in a more conservative area than Troy, I was taught very young to be ashamed of who I am. I grew to hate myself for being gay. First convinced that I would just ignore it and act as society wants me to. But eventually realizing that that was never going to work, I did come out in high school. But I was still so brainwashed by the shame that I didn't understand pride. I am ashamed to admit that it took me too long to understand the importance of pride. And I did vocalize that as a teenager just to gain approval from peers and family members who would never accept me for who I am. No surprise that self-loathing led to some significant health-related issues. I am happy to say that I eventually found help through community and mental health professionals. Thank you. It clicked. Pride is about letting go of that shame and loving who you are. As I got older, I continued to understand the importance of pride and the organizations that help queer people. My husband and I, who's here tonight, and I moved to Troy because of the incredible queer community that is present here. And we're now part of that community. So in closing, identifying June as Pride Month on the local government scale shows queer youth that they should not be ashamed of who they are, and instead should be proud and love themselves.
Thank you, Joseph. That concludes those who signed up, but if anyone else wishes, please come forward and share your name with us.
Hello, my name is Starlita Washington. I am, hold on one second, let me get my notes. Okay. Good evening, council members, neighbors, and community partners. My name is Starlita Washington, and I'm the CEO of YWCA of the Greater Capital Region, a lifetime resident of Troy downtown, and a proud ally to the LGBTQIA+ community. I am here tonight because I care deeply about our city, our people, our future, and the kind of leadership we all deserve. I believe in Troy, where everyone feels seen, safe, and celebrated. And I believe public service should bring people together, not divide them. I am here because I cannot stay silent when dignity is up for debate. For the second year in a row, during what would have been a simple affirming vote on the city's council's annual Pride resolution, one member voted no. Not once, but twice. While I am not here to attack anyone personally, I am here to name the harm. Because when someone votes no on affirming the dignity and humanity of LGBTQIA+ people, that's not just a political position. That's a message, and that message indicated or not, tells queer and trans residents, you do not count here. We've heard statements like, I don't believe in this agenda, but let's be clear, this kind of language doesn't exist in a vacuum. It reflects a broader, dangerous movement across the country, a movement using fear, misinformation, and exclusion to justify real harm. And the consequences, they're not abstract. The kind of rhetoric normalizes hate and stigma. It erases trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people by threatening their existence as something to be debated. And it sends a message that allyship is optional when in fact, it is urgent. We are not dealing with local decisions. We're living through a national rollback of human rights. Since January 2025, trans people have been banned from serving in the military. The X gender marker has been removed from US passports. Legal gender markers changes are being restricted even with matching birth certificates. LGBTQIA+ resources have been wiped away from the White House websites. Funding for HIV treatment in developing countries have been cut. Suicide prevention and mental health services for LGBTQ youth have been slashed. These decisions create a ripple effect, and local rhetoric that mimics the agenda only deepens the harm. At YWCA, we are clear in our mission. eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. And all includes LGBT plus community. It always has, and it always will. So I stand here not to point fingers, but to raise the bar. This moment calls for brave leadership. Leadership that refuses to reduce human beings to political talking points. Leadership that listens, learns, and grows. Leadership that leads with love. Because allyship isn't a trend. It's a daily decision, and right now it's needed more than ever. Troy has a beautiful, resilient LGBT plus community. They show up for each other every day, and it's time their leaders consistently showed up for them too. To every LGBT plus resident, youth, elder, parent, and person in the room and beyond, you matter, you are loved, and you belong here, and we will keep showing up for you. And to the members of the council who supported the Pride resolution, thank you. As an ally, as a neighbor, and as someone who believes in the promise of the city, I am grateful your votes sent a message that Troy will not be swept up by fear-based politics. You choose affirmation, you chose community, you chose justice. I urge you to keep leading with that same courage, keep standing up, because you're not just deciding policy. We're shaping the heart of our city. Let Troy be known not for raising flags, but raising up people, all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Leader.
Hello, council members. My name is Speedy. I'm a resident of Troy and District 1 in Lansingburg. All of you, of course, know that my first name is Mark, but truth be told, I never really liked that name very much. Most of you probably don't know that I'm non-binary, so I don't particularly like that name or the gender that it implies. I admit I have to say proudly, with some amount of hesitation, because I have not been very forward about it to you all. I don't introduce myself here with they, he pronouns, and I often find myself taking efforts to dress more straight before a council meeting. I do this because while I want to be proud of who I am, there's a part of me that is afraid of how it will impact your perception of me. I know that there are some on this council who probably already think of me as nothing more than a pink-haired socialist whose appearance at a meeting is an omen of how long the public comment section is going to be. And yet, I feel the need to conceal my queerness to you because I fear that you might further dismiss me outright as some radical with an agenda, as Councilman Keel put it, instead of as a member of this community with real concerns for my neighbors. Bill, I have worked with you on the Powers Park concerts. You have seen me at every Lansingburg neighborhood meeting sharing cookies with Kim and chatting with our neighbors, and I am far from the only queer person in your district. You may remember Linda, who jets around on her power chair at the Powers Park concerts to sell raffle tickets, and proudly proclaimed to me that both of her daughters are gay. Those daughters are amazing foster parents and also help rescue stray cats in our community. Our community is a beautiful tapestry of identities, and this month is a time for us to be proud of that. When society has taught us to be ashamed and fearful, it is a reminder that we are not alone and that we can be proud of who we are. The Pride Month resolution is a symbolic gesture to the LGBTQ community that we are welcome and safe here in Troy. By voting no, you're sending a message that people like me are not welcome here. My name is Speedy. I am non-binary, and I will not hide who I am anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
Okay, I'll lean down a little bit. Hi, my name's JJ. I have been a resident of Troy for a couple of years. I moved to South Troy recently. And I came today because of the resolution about the I forget the terminology with Pride, the Pride proclamation. Thank you. Sorry. I really wish, Bill, that it could be a conversation. I understand that we have limitations around how this type of thing is structured. And I'm glad to, be able to have heard from some other members of the community. Obviously, this is important to a lot of people. This is my first meeting that I have come to, and there's been plenty of other things that have caught my interest. Discussions around the nature of how to make housing more fair in Troy. I did not prepare a thorough statement. I didn't. No, you're good. But I decided to stand up anyway. I have considered myself a member of the LGBTQ community since I was a teenager. But interestingly enough, and one of the reasons that I mentioned I wish this was a conversation is because I grew up as someone who was not told that that was allowed, and was around I went to a very conservative church, where the idea that there was a very clear agenda about the community that I'm now a part of was spread. And it was something that I internalized, something that, I accepted. And so I wish to come at it with a certain degree of compassion, but I can only extend that insofar as much as I also extend the awareness that those words have consequences to me and to people like me. So what I would ask if this was a back and forth was to get a little deeper on what you mean by agenda. I wish I could just get a concept of that and discuss a little bit deeper what it is that perhaps irritates you or is a moral issue for you. What I can say is that the way that we form our ideas about ethics and the ways that we decide to lead our life and say, this is how we think others should lead our lives, I think should be based in empathy. And I hope you can agree. When we see people who don't look like us and don't act like us, and we tend to separate, and our tribal brains enter this space of feeling like I'm not a part of this and you're not a part of this, we really risk forgetting each other's humanity. And I will also put it quite starkly, the agenda is for us to live freely. As much as it is spread in other forms of media, I've seen plenty of people on Fox News talking about how we are there are high schools putting out freaking kitty litter for the non-binary people to piss in. It doesn't happen. There are lies that are spread, and we need to be aware of what those lies are. If this was a conversation, I would attempt to delve into those things and discuss them point by point. I don't think there's a reason to think there is any agenda other than that of us being given the ability to live our lives without fear of violence, without fear of people looking at us and thinking that we are some sort of pariah. I live my life on a day-to-day basis now as someone who is rarely recognized for the gender that I identify with. And it's a hostile existence. I don't think everyone here can even imagine what it feels like to live day to day in a hostile existence. And we need the ability to have one day, 1 month, one moment where we are able to be surrounded by those who say your existence does not need to be hostile. To me, it is celebrated, and we need more people to know that we are human beings. That's the fucking agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, JJ. Does anyone else wish to address on an agenda item?
Jonna Favreau. I didn't have anything prepared for this evening, but listening to everybody in the room, oftentimes when Pride comes up on the agenda, the word ally is thrown out. So I just wrote something down really quick. Calling yourself an ally while enabling bigotry in the room isn't allyship. And this is for everybody on the council, in the room, the administration, everybody listening. Calling yourself an ally while enabling bigotry in the room isn't allyship, it's complicity. True allyship demands more than just a label. It requires active intervention and a willingness to challenge discrimination, which is what's happening, making you an accomplice in the fight for justice. So it requires active intervention and a willingness to challenge discrimination, making you an accomplice in the fight for justice.
Sorry, I'm a little shorter than Jonna. My name is Silva Menard, and I too am here to speak publicly and as an ally. Thank you, Jonna. In support of Pride and LGBTQ Plus Month on behalf of my friends and community members who don't feel safe and are unable to show up today, speaking in public and advocating for their safety and right to belong in our local community freely without fear of harm, discrimination, and violence from their landlords and neighbors.
Hi, my name is Jess Bennett. I'm a D1 resident, and I promise I'll keep it brief. I do some community organizing up in D1, and I've knocked on every single door in my neighborhood over the last 5 years. I would say it's far down, as a little bit past the Hannaford. So we're talking about 400 people or so. And what I hear over and over, whether it's in the nicer houses by the Lansingburg ball field or in the trailer park, is that everyone feels disenfranchised. Everybody feels like they are forgotten about up in D1. They say whether it's because we're just so far north that they forget about us, or we're not a particularly, it's a low income community. Nobody feels like we have representation up there. We feel a little bit forgotten. There really is no gay agenda, which I'm sure we're hearing over and over. I don't know if any of you guys ever watch King of the Hill or Parks and Rec, which is about local government, so you may find some real enjoyment of it. But there was an actor who is on multiple seasons, like a character in reoccurring, named Jonathan Joss, and he was tragically killed last week in San Antonio, Texas. He had the double jeopardy of being both Native and gay. His house was burned down, and last week when he and his partner went to check their mailbox at their non-existent house, which was burned down by their neighbor because he was gay, they found the skull of their dog that had been taken by the neighbor with the leash, so they knew it was theirs. And as they were kind of losing their mind in grief, the neighbor came out, shouted gay slurs at them, and shot at them. And Jonathan jumped in front of his husband, and that's how he took the bullet, and then he died. This is why we have Pride. It's not to shove a lifestyle in your face. It's to make sure that you should be feeling good about yourself. We in D1 want representation, and we want it for everyone. And I don't know, Bill Keel. I don't know what's in your heart. I know you were elected on the Republican line, but you represent all of us. And we want you to represent all of us. And if you can't represent every single person, then maybe you shouldn't be representing us at all. I hope to work with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
And with public comment now complete, the council turned to take up the full agenda.
Seeing none, we're going to move on to our agenda. Resolution 53.
Resolution 53, resolution declaring support for LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Troy, New York. Council President Steele.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren. Second?
Second.
Councilmember Vera. Any discussion on resolution 53?
Council President.
Councilmember.
I would just like to say that personally, I've learned a lot about allyship in getting to know a lot of the folks, like Megan with Color City Pride. I applaud the work that they do. I've heard the saying a lot of times, be careful who you hate, because it just might turn out to be somebody that you love. And I have tried to take that to heart. I have family members who don't feel safe, not in this community, but in their own community. I kind of wish that the resources that Color City Pride offers were available to them at this time, because they really feel in a bad way, because they feel like here we are in 2025 and they're being made to feel like they shouldn't exist. I'm embarrassed and almost ashamed. Speedy, please don't ever feel like you needed to
not be fully who you are when you came to speak in front of us. That it's embarrassing to me. It's appalling. You know, I don't see an agenda. I see a group of human beings who are trying to live authentically. Many whom are trying to improve their community, our community, and it shouldn't be an us and them. It's a we. And so I'm very proud to be part of this, and I plan to do the work and make it an action to be an ally. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I just want to say, for me personally, this is a very personal resolution. For those who know our family story, it has been a journey, and I would hope that all of us would take this opportunity and make the journey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Right. 6 ayes, 1 no. Resolution 53 passes.
Diversity, folks.
While the resolution passed overwhelmingly, the respectful and honest appeals from Troy residents did not sway Mr. Keel, who did vote no. I have to say, I was genuinely moved by many of the speakers. It takes tremendous courage to come forward and speak during a public meeting on an issue you care about. This is something that's even more important in 2025. As I said earlier, a culture of fear is being cultivated in Washington, D.C., which attempts to paralyze free speech, freedom of expression, and the laws that ensure our nation remains a free and open democracy. It's also a reminder to go to a city council meeting. Check the agendas of what's happening in Troy's local government. Stay informed about who your local elected officials are and their positions on issues that matter to you. There's so much we can do together, and it's going to take all of us to ensure Troy remains a welcoming community for all people. Most importantly, please register to vote and participate in upcoming elections. I say this without any degree of exaggeration. These next few elections will be some of the most consequential decisions we make as Americans and human beings on this planet. Each of us are here for such a short time, but the decisions we make have a monumental impact on the future of this country of ours. Finally, be an ally. Stand up and speak out for your neighbors. We need to be brave and raise all of our voices together. I'm going to leave you now with some oddly prescient remarks from Mayor Madden during that Pride Month proclamation signing event in 2019.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King eloquently stated that the arc of humanity bends toward justice. That's a beautiful sentiment, as long as we remember that it does not do so by itself. It takes a commitment to justice and a willingness to act on that commitment. Today, it is our task to ensure that those hard-earned goals are not eroded or lost. It is our task to ensure that the politics of the hour do not undermine what so many have sacrificed so much to achieve. It is our task to continue their work and leave our children a more just, a more loving, and a more equal society than we inherited. That is the American way. That is what makes America great. The continual struggle to create a more perfect union. When all Americans are treated equal, we are all more free.
Until next time, happy Pride, stay cool, and stay engaged this summer. And as always, now more than ever, love yourself, love one another, and may Pod save Troy. Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, is hosted, written, edited, and produced by me, John Salka. Our theme music is by Stephen J. Goldman at Four Legs Records. Like what you heard? Please give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City. This is incredibly helpful for getting others to find our show. Want to know more? Visit TroyStoryPod.com to see upcoming episodes, guests, and bonus content. Thanks for listening. The views or opinions expressed by guests are their own and not of the host or Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City.